James, as always, you're in quite a relaxed mood wandering around today here at the show. You've had a good look around at all these classic bikes. We've got the presentation, or the awards coming up soon for all the guys that are here. What's taken your fancy the most? Obviously, you've got a big collection, and as we know,
there's loads of stuff. I mean, the fact is, I don't know enough about the British bikes to know whether it's a good one or a bad one. I know a shiny one or a non-shiny one, but I don't know what's original, what isn't original. Most of the Jap stuff, especially sort of 75 onwards through the 80s, have a reasonable idea what's right and what's wrong, and I like my two-strokes, so there's all sorts of nice stuff. I mean, the little trial stands, some lovely trials bikes, but they're all very non-standard and kind of homemade in a really nice way, so there's all sorts of stuff. Whatever your preference is, they're here.
I thought you were say they're all very old.
They are all very old, but like we all are. You've got to have a look at, there's a guy down here just outside the bistro there, and he's made a snowmobile into a sprint bike by putting some little wheels on the front, and where the track goes underneath, he's put a little wheel there. And this thing has a 1 litre 3-cylinder Bombardier engine, and it produces 300 horsepower. It's not right. And it looks like he's made it himself, but it goes like shit off a shovel apparently.
What's the weirdest thing you've ridden? Obviously looking at that, I do a lot of, I do the...
Motorbikes we're talking?
Yes, 100%, as children. Staffordshire every year, we get there's all sorts of weird and wonderful concoctions there, and I get offered to jump on many different things and I'm a blast of them. Yeah. What's the weirdest thing you've ridden throughout not your career, but your life in general?
Weirdest thing I've ridden is probably a thing called a Bermotor Tessie. If you remember, the motor bike out called a Tessie, had a Ducati engine, the one I rode, and it was all hook centre steering. It was just a work of art. The amount of engineering and thought and machining and everything else that got into it, it was absolutely exquisite to look at, beautiful. Lots of rose joints and linkages, and it looked so different. It didn't work. It really felt awful to ride. You didn't get, when you put the brakes on, you didn't get any dive. It just didn't feel like a motorbike. They were going to race it. They were going to race it in World Superbike, but it wouldn't have been competitive. I did a little bit of testing on that, and that was just weird. I've been in a lot of good stuff. I've ridden 4-cylinder V4 2-stroke, square 4 2-stroke, 500 race bikes, pretty much every road bike. I used to do a lot of testing for a couple of magazines, so I've ridden pretty much every 1 litre and 600 sports bike in the last 20 years, I'd say, and there's some really good stuff. What I can tell you is bikes have got better and better every single year. If you get a 1 litre sports bike now, it's probably better than anything I ever raced. And I've raced factory 750cc super bikes that probably £500,000 worth in the day, and they're nowhere near as good as what a normal standard 1 litre sports bike is now. You don't know you've got it so good, although you lot probably don't have 1 litre sports bikes now.
So, from all of the, not just the bikes here, of course, from obviously your workshop where you've got all your gear and your prized possessions, what would you have if money was no object, what would you have? There's some guys here actually today that we've been chatting to that got a fantastic collection.
Yeah. I don't regret that much, but one thing I do regret is I got offered a couple of TZ750s and G500s back about 15 years ago, when you could still buy them for 4, 5, 6, 7 grand. And one of my biggest regrets is not buying a TZ750 and not buying an RG at the time when I could have probably had 12 grand in a pair. And now you can't go near them for less than 30, 35 grand, and it's a little bit more than I can spend on a motorbike now. So I'm probably never going to own a TZ750 unless I get a lottery win or whatever, I get lucky, or an RG. And there's things I would like that I've never been able to afford, but those I could have probably afforded one day, back 15 years ago, and I didn't, and that I regret not getting them. So they always say you're better regretting what you did than what you didn't do, and that's true. I wish I'd have bought a TZ750 and an RG 15 years ago.
So obviously cruising through your career, we spoke about that over the last 2 days, and 2 strokes, 4 strokes, British Championships, obviously winning championships, British Championship, moving on to World Superbike, and getting to ride with Ken Roberts at GPs. What was your favourite?
favourite year was probably with Kenny Roberts, and that was probably my least successful year. The bike wasn't capable of winning, I wasn't capable of winning, I got hurt quite a lot, but I got to work with Kenny Roberts and I got to be friends. I'm proud of the fact I got to be friends with Kenny Roberts. Kenny's funny, he's Kenny Roberts, so he's used to people almost giving him too much respect, you know what I mean? People suck up to him a little bit really. You see all this, it's Kenny Roberts, so you can't help doing that. But I decided that it's so easy to take the piss out because he's American and he doesn't even get a lot of English humour sails over his head and he's only little. So I used to take the piss out of him all the time and he got why they really liked it and he got why they liked us. He invited us over to his place in America a couple of times and went to his place in Spain and I got quite friendly with him at one point. I mean I've lost touch a little bit now, but so I really enjoyed that year. And then any year that you have a good year, you look back on with a bit of fondness. So 93 when I won a British Championship, I enjoyed that year. I enjoyed my years with World Superbike Suzuki because I did alright on it, I think, and I enjoyed my year. And with the Belgada Supersport bike because it's just fun and the team was fantastic. I really get on with Italian people. Italians, when you don't know them, they're right standoffish and a bit stylish and a bit up themselves. But when you get to know them, they're passionate, lovely people, really lovely people. The Belgada team was fantastic. Just a little bit kind of get paid up front. Don't let them pay you after. Get paid up front.
And after obviously riding for all those teams, UK and World Championship, give us a bit of dirt. Who did you hate the most? I'm talking team manager wise. Who was the biggest cop?
The hardest person to work for probably Simon Buckmaster was a difficult bloke when I was with Suzuki because he had his way of doing things and he was almost a clash of personalities. We had a couple of mechanics that I really liked that he didn't get on with that he fired and that upset me a little bit. That said, I got on really well with him and he did do a good job. The bikes turned up in the right condition at the right place at the right time, so he did a really good job. Other than that, I got on really well with everybody I worked for. Mick Grant was my team manager, really enjoyed that, really good bloke. Mick would do anything for you. As a manager, he would lie for you. If you got involved in an on-track incident and it was my fault and somebody protested, he'd say to me, "Is that your fault?" I'd say, "Yeah." He'd go, "Right, okay." And he would go into a jury meeting and lie his arse off for you. He'd say it wasn't my man's fault, it was his fault. And he'd come out and say, "Yeah, we got away with that." He'd do anything for you, as would Rob Mack. Rob Mack, big, strong bloke who would really pitch for you. Kenny Roberts, mad as an egg, but lovely. One of the best team managers I ever had was one of my heroes as a kid, and it was a bloke called Christian Sarah. He's there on that picture. And he is as mad as what you can get without being locked up in a straitjacket. He's absolutely mental. Hard as nails. He's a little soft fella. He's a little... You wouldn't ever have thought he could race a bike, but in his head, he's rock hard. And he rode injured, he crashed a lot, but he was very fast always in his career. And he's an hero for me, because he wasn't American or Australian, he was only European, batting it out with them boys in the sort of late 80s. And I rode for him in an endurance team, and I had two French teammates, one called Adrian Marillas and one called Jean-Marc Delatang. And we were in the Ball d'Or at Ricard, and we were doing really well. And we were top three. 1 minute we'd be leading it, then we'd be third, then we'd have a fuel stop, then we'd be fifth, then we'd be leading it, then it was one of them. And at night it rained. And my teammates were really bad in the rain. I was 4 seconds lap quicker in the rain than both Delatang and Marillas. So I came in to swap, and Sarah said, "Can you do another stint?" And I went, yeah, I can do another stint. He said, "Right, you need to do it. These they're not quick enough in the wet." And I ended up doing double stints, then I'd be off for an hour, then another double stint in the wet, then off for an hour. On my third double stint, middle of night sometime, 2 o'clock in the morning, I flipping lost the back, picked myself off, broke my wrist. I broke my right scaphoid. And I knew it was broken. I picked the bike up, got the bike back, Delatang went out, and Salon's like head in his hands, "Oh, no." He's thinking like we've lost the fastest wet ride, and he's still wet. So he said, "Are you alright?" He goes, "No, I broke my wrist." He said, "Yeah, but would you be at ride again?" I said, "No, I broke my wrist. I need to go to hospital." And he looked at me in the eyes and says, "As soon as the race finishes, we'll take you straight to hospital." I goes, "You don't understand, Christian. My wrist is broken." And at that point he went, okay, we'll send you to hospital. And he sent me to hospital, and I came back with the pot, couldn't ride. And they ended up finishing, I think, 4th. And we had a debrief. All the team, 100 people, having this debrief, and he gave a little bit of a speech to Sarah, and I thought, I'm in for it now. And all 3 riders just sat up there like this, and I thought, I'm in for it here. We could have won if I hadn't hurt myself and crashed the bike. And he said, right, we have a problem with 2 of the riders. And I thought, I thought he'd have a problem with me. He says, this man did his best. These 2, and these are friends she's talking about, he only broke his hand because these are shit. These are shit riders. And I'm like, yeah, well, he was, hang on. Call you back. It's alright, it's ex-wife. And I'm still scared of her. So Sarah was brilliant.
Notice a fruitcake. So there's a big classic event called Spa Classic. I was there a couple of years ago, lucky enough to ride Kenny Roberts Jr.'s 2000 bike, and Sounds right. I've never been to the circuit before. I don't know so much about Spa.
Lovely circuit.
It's fabulous place. And go down the circuit for the first time, so I'm following Sarah and Wade Gardner around. They're just turning them around. My bike's loads faster than theirs, to be honest. And he must be 60 years old now, Sarah.
Yeah.
And it's been a Michelin test rider for a long time as well. So it still does a lot of miles on the bike. But mate, that fella is still captain competitive. I sat behind him for a lap, just learning a few bits around the track. And the next time I come out of Eau Rouge down the big long straight, I couldn't help it. I had to go past. It's Christian Saran and Wayne Gardner. Went past. Into the next flash she came. The bloke come past me, arms and legs in the air, elbows out, shoved in the side of me. Proper Mr. Competitive, who it is. Nutty as a fruitcake.
And he's still, the thing is, he rides weird. He's old school. He sits on the bike, and we can see from that, he just sits on it and leans and then leans some more. Lean angle is unbelievable, because when you get off the bike doesn't lean over as far, so you're not using all your tyre. He just goes roof, and it's on its side. You're going as quick as him, but you can't understand how his bike's 15 degrees more lean over than yours. He's an incredible rider, brilliant bloke. He knocked himself out that much that some part of his neck and head stem was loose apparently, and the doctors, he only retired because doctors said the next time you have a big crash, you're going to cripple yourself, you're going to probably not walk again, and that's why he didn't ride. But other than that, he's still riding. Yeah, he's completely mad, but lovely French mad. It's a different mad to everybody else who's French mad. They do things different just because they're French. Even though they know the other way would be better, they say, well, everybody else is doing it that way, so we're French, we're going to do it this way. That'll show them. It's lovely.
Now, obviously, since stopping racing, you're doing the TV job, doing a great job with Eurosport and all the work with that. And I think that's pretty much because, obviously, you're quite popular, you're quite funny on the telly.
Thank you.
You're a Yorkshireman, so you're quite opinionated, not scared to put your opinion across. But what turns you on the most with doing the TV side? You obviously love it to bits, but why?
I love still being around bikes. It's difficult. I don't know what you're like, but it's difficult. If I go and watch a race meeting that I'm not involved in somehow, it's difficult. It's difficult to just be a punter, if you know what I mean. When you haven't been one, I don't know if you can get that, but that's what I feel like. But the commentary is the next best thing. You're still involved. You still feel like you're mates with a lot of them. I still have so much respect for bike races. It's not an easy thing to do. Anybody who gets off their arse and does even a club race, a lot of respect for you. Anybody who gets to national level, you've got to take it after them. And anybody who does a TT, anybody who puts herself through the pressure and torment that doing a TT brings, you've got to respect them, because it's not easy to do, and it's mentally so difficult, is the other man, because it's difficult to race anyway. Mentally, I know mates who I was brought up with who were quicker than me on a field bike, who could have raced a bike but didn't because they were scared. So anybody who has the arse to do it, I take me out to. And I like being around people like that.
So, even on the TV side of things, so you interview, you're commentating with Jack Burnicle. Jack's a massive encyclopedia on the dirt biking side.
Yeah.
So he makes quite a few cock-ups on the road racing side. Sure, you soon put him right.
Yeah, Jack's stand is, I'm an ex-rider, that's my standpoint. I understand what the bike's doing and all that. Jack is an excited spectator. His background was going to watch races and being on the side of the track and never thinking he could compete. But there's a certain niceness in that. he loves that. He gets so excited about the least little things, and that, I like his enthusiasm. But he does get a few stuff wrong, and sometimes you have a bit of banter and pick him up for it. But he has come out with some of the funniest things, and he don't even know he said it. He came out with this thing, right? The funniest thing he's ever said. He said loads of good stuff. He said about, we were commentating on World Superbike, and he was on about, it might have been Colin Edwards, but we were talking about tyres, and he said, well, Colin had a hard on yesterday, and I bet he wish he had a hard on this morning. That's one. Another one, for me, the best one with this ride, we're at Croft, BSB, about 5 years ago. And it's a Super Stock 1000 race, and it's a really good race. 4 or 5 people at the front, all battling away. One of the riders at the front, in the leading group, is a guy called Victor Cox, right? A guy I think he's from down southwest somewhere. I think he's like a Bristol lad or something, but he's a lovely kid, really nice lad. And he's going really well. His suspension's totally falling apart. The bike's moving around and bouncing everywhere. And he's getting really excited about this, because he's quite excited, and this is live on air, and Jack's getting really excited about this bike all over the place. And live on air, he said this, oh, do you know what, James? I love to see Cox bouncing around. And he didn't know what he'd said, and I'm laughing, and he's looking at me. He's trying to keep the commentary going. He's looking at me, and I'm laughing. He's going, and I said, you love to see Cox bouncing around? He went, oh. Old Jack, so innocent.
And how do you find that? Being obviously quite an outspoken person, you know, with the TV side, even on my small part of obviously working together with TT and stuff, freedom of speech these days is hard work, but on the TV you have to be really, really careful.
You've got to be really careful. The first thing they tell you is you can't swear, obviously. You're not allowed to, we get guidelines, you're not allowed to mention anything political, so anything to do with race, creed, colour, religion, forget it. Just steer away from it, right? It's a minefield that you cannot win. So and there's all sorts of other sensitive things that they tell you not to mention. But to be honest, I've worked for BBC, I've worked for ITV, and I've worked for Eurosport. And Eurosport, you can get away with a lot of stuff. We had a hold-up once in America. We were racing, we were coming from, I think, Miller Motor Park, and there'd been an oil spillage, so nothing was going on. And all we're getting, coming over our monitors, is shots of the crowd and shots of just boring shots. And we've got to keep talking. We've got somebody's ear going, keep going, keep going. We'll be back with you in, we had half an hour just to talk about anything. It was boring. How anybody was still watching. And it came across the crowd, and there's a lassie there, not a young lass, she'd be, I guess, 30s, maybe 40. Big girl, and with a bikini on. And I just said, nice bangers. That's all I said, bangers. And Jack was like this. And I thought, oh no. And he got me thinking, oh my God, I'm in trouble, I'm going to get sacked. Nobody even made them bothered. Not even bothered. So Eurosport are quite good. You've got to be sometimes careful, and obviously you can't swear, but yeah, they're good. They're all right.
So your main thing now obviously is BSD, arguably the best championship in the world really, certainly going from strength to strength, but and it's your job to switch on with everything that's going on there. On the superbike side of things, who's your money on this year? Big changes this year, obviously, guys leaving, guys coming back in.
Yeah, loads changing in British Superbike. I reckon it's about as wide open as it's been for a long time. Honestly, I love Shane Burr, but I think probably he's coming towards the end of what has been a brilliant career. We've seen a couple of chinks in his armour this year. He's changing machines as well. The Ducati he's going to be jumping on is different to every other Ducati he's ever ridden, because it's a Panigale, it's a lot shorter stroke, a lot revier. Although they are going to get factory help, I still think Shane's going to be near the front a lot of weekends. We've got Leon Haslam back in BSB. However, he hasn't had a bike with no traction control for about 10 years, and I think he might just take a little bit of time to get used to having the lack of electronics that he's been used to in World Superbike. Laverty's come good towards the end of last year, so maybe Laverty might be up front if he can start how he finished last year. I think James Ellison's going to be a man to watch. And a bit of a wild card, or a bit of a sort of tip would be Christian Hidden. I I've just got a feeling, maybe not for the championship, but I think Christian's got a lot of rostrums in him. I really rate him as a rider. He's a really good kid as well. So maybe, but it's wide open. It's not an easy one to call this year.
No, certainly an awful lot of names, and I think tough even going to be getting to the shootout.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Now, of course, you do a lot of this sort of thing, a lot of academic talking, speaking, and interviewing different people and celebrities, really, and a lot of guys from the past. But if you had a choice to sit down and interview anybody that's sadly passed away now, who would that be and why?
Aylward. Yeah, it'd be Mike Aylward, just simply because I never knew Mike Aylward in his original career, because he finished in about 1968 and 9. I think he finished his original career. My dad first took me to the Isle of Man in 78 purely because Aylward, we went like a lot of other people, like another 100,000 people, went because Aylward making his comeback. Saw him win there on the Ducati, went the following year, and doing what I did in my career, I'm fairly certain that if Mike Aylward hadn't been killed, I would have probably got to meet him and got to know him and maybe be at places with him and maybe parade laps with him or whatever. So it's a real big regret of mine that he got killed before I got, well known enough to know him, if you know what I mean. Do you understand that? So I would love to sit down with him and talk to him. Just because he's probably, if you take all things into consideration, in my opinion, probably the best rider, the best person doing my sport ever. I think, probably. You can never have an answer to that, but I think I'd put money on him as opposed to he rode roads, he rode short circuits, he rode 4 strokes, 2 strokes, big bikes, little bikes, and he stopped racing for 11 years and came back and still won. And I think that's probably a full set for me.
Well, that was going to be a question. Obviously, you're not the, but your greatest of all time. Obviously, Aylward.
Yeah, Aylward greatest of all time. If I was going off the most popular and best kind of charismatic rider of all time, and probably not the most successful, definitely wasn't. He won 1 500 World Championship. Would be Kevin Schwant. Just loads of reasons. Kevin wore his out on his sleeve. He crashed a lot. He'd rather win than fail. And Kevin had that kind of magic ability to make people believe in him and want him to win, especially in Britain. Kevin was more popular in the UK than anywhere else in the world, and he was really popular everywhere, but he was a complete legend here. And even now, I did a chat show with him in a bike shop, Chesterfield Motorcycles, and they sold it out in about 10 minutes, and everybody they pay about a tenner, they get a free cup of tea and a pork pie, and they get to listen to somebody. And normally, if I was up there with you or on my own, or with, Alex Lowe's, there'd be 250 people then, it'd be a good night. They sold 450 tickets, basically a shop full, in about 20 minutes. And it would just and he'll say things, he's just a lovely bloke who'll race for the right reasons and wore his out on his sleeve. And I think people, Rainey was his sort of nemesis, and Rainey was a better rider, better tactician, thought more. So he wasn't a character like, if you had to have a night on the piss with somebody, it wouldn't be Rainey, would it? It was Schwant. Because you know you'd end up in jail with Schwant. And you know your higher card had got it through. You know that. So Schwant's probably, as a character, as a sort of rock and roll bike racer, it'd be Schwant.
Yeah, me too, I think. Right, have we got any questions for James, please? Yes, young man.
You like to come this way because it'll feed back.
Yeah, I'd just like to know, Jamie, when you're commentating on the World Superbikes or British Superbikes, what screen are you actually watching? Do you get the same as we get if it's home?
We get exactly. In fact, it's even worse than you get. You know when people tweet me in saying you've gone blind because you didn't see that and I saw that and clearly that happened and you didn't see it? We are watching sometimes monitors. Did you ever go camping as a kid and you had a little black and white telly? That's what we're working off. That same telly that your dad had. Right?
Yeah, it's that kind of thing I was thinking.
So don't you be tweeting me saying I've gone blind. But I tell you what you're also getting, what takes most getting used to as a commentator when you first do it, and Steve will probably back me up on this, you have got somebody telling you what to do the whole time that you can't hear at home. So when I'm talking, you might get a voice saying, right, I'm going to a break in 10 seconds. 10 seconds, lads, 10, 9, 8 seconds. And so you've got to wrap up what you're saying. You can't just stop talking. If you start talking about an exhaust pipe on, Shane Burns Kawasaki, you need to finish that conversation and finish it on time and make it sound natural while somebody's talking at you. You get used to it, but it's not that easy.
That's why it's mainly male commentators, because it's called multitasking. Anyway, if all my lads come that close, any more questions?
Hey, do you want to be... we were just discussing before we came up on stage here. Do you want to hear a story about my dad? My dad was a complete madman into his motorbikes, into his Nortons. He was a very Norton man. And he brought me up to believe certain things and not believe other certain things. And his heart was in the right place, but he had his own way of doing things, like a lot of his dads did. And I was, what, a 12-year-old, I am at the family home when the phone rings in the house, because we didn't have mobile then. My dad answers the phone, he says, yeah, all right, yeah, I'll be there in 20 minutes. He puts the phone down, he says to me, get in the car, we're going to Oldham. Oh, okay. What are we going to Oldham for? We're meeting your Uncle Jim. Right? All right. So I'm off with my dad and we're off to Oldham. This is about 20-25 minutes away, just over the Pennines. Why are we going there? Oh, well, don't matter. You wouldn't tell me. It turns out that my great uncle Ralph, my dad's uncle Ralph, my dad's brother to my great uncle, old guy, be about 70 odd then. He started going out with a girl, an old lady, in Oldham. And he'd gone to visit her that night in a little terraced house in Oldham, just like Coronation Street, houses down each side, cobbled road, and he died at night. He died in his sleep, poor old fella. Uncle Jim had gone over because his girlfriend, in tears, had gone up the road to the phone box because she didn't have a phone, rung Uncle Jim, because that's only one of the next generation, it's the only thing she knew how to do. Uncle Jim went over in his Austin Princess, 1800, right? He's gone upstairs, the doctor's there, the doctor says, right, here's your death certificate, there's nothing, suspicious, he's had a massive heart attack, there's not necessary to do a post-mortem. There's your death certificate. I've got to get off. Can I leave it to you to organise a funeral director? Uncle Jim says, yeah, no problem. Uncle Jim goes to the same phone box, puts 10p in, rings an Halifax funeral director out to phone book and says, is that so-and-so? Yeah. My uncle Ralph's died and he's in Oldham and we want you to pick him up because we're going to bury him in Halifax. So bloke says, yeah, we can do that, but there's going to be an extra charge because we've got to come all that way, 15 miles from Halifax to pick him up, so it's going to be another 150 quid. So Jim says, right, I'll get back to you. Puts phone down, puts another 10p up, rings me dad. That was the original call to my dad. All I know is we pulled up behind me Uncle Jim's Austin Princess. My dad says, wait here. My dad, there's people in the street, there's kids playing hopscotch, there's people hanging washing out. I see him disappear in this terraced house. 5 minutes later, I see him holding onto a pair of arms with a blanket over him, and my Uncle Jim come out holding legs. They carried him, dragged him, down the street, opened the boot on the Princess, rolled him in, right, shut the boot. My dad got back in car, and I'm shitting myself at this point. My dad said nothing, right? He said, right, we're going back to Halifax now, that's all he said. Okay. We followed my Uncle Jim back to Halifax, and then we all went into, left the cars outside, went into funeral directors. They'd just rung 2 hours earlier, right? Jim says, I rang you earlier, a couple hours ago, about my Uncle Ralph, who's died in Oldham. He says, oh, yes. Have you decided you want us to do the job? He says, yes, please, but we've got him outside, so there won't be an extra charge. He says, you can't do that, it's illegal. You're not allowed to transport bodies, you need a licence for that. He says, well, he's here outside. He says, you can't do it, it's illegal. And Jim just looked at me and said, do you want the job or don't you want the job? And bloke said, we'll have him. We had to then get him out of the boot and put him on a little trolley and wheel him in. Can you imagine getting stopped by the police? Can I have a look in your boot, sir? Well, I can explain.
Any more questions, please?
Did you enjoy your ride on the Rotary North TT?
Yeah.
And did you enjoy the ride you had on Ryan Crichton's new Rotary?
Mallory. I was privileged last couple of years. The first time was on a brand new Crichton Rotary that Brian Crichton's developed, and I mean what you can do with it I don't know because it's not eligible to be in a race series, but this thing has about 220 horsepower, it weighs nothing and it was fast, wasn't it? It just wheeled it everywhere. Out of Gerrard's in 5th gear, it just picked the wheel up, so that was frightening. It was not frightening, lovely, exhilarating. And then I was privileged lucky enough to ride one of the Rotary Nortons, the JPS ones that I raced against back in the late 80s when variously, Steve Spray, Trevor Nation and Ron Aslan were riding them. And that was lovely. It really was nice. It was very light, only about 130 kilos, loads of torque. The rotary engines, the way they work, you open the throttle and it's instant torque. There's no power band, it's just instant, lovely sort of mid-range power. It's lovely things to ride. I was quite impressed with it. The only problem in the Isle of Man was every time you kept revving it on the long sections, the temperature crept up and up and up, and once it got to about 110, you had to kind of, I didn't want it seizing up, so I kept having to ease it off, let it come back to a sort of 80, then you could go again. But it was lovely, really nice, very light.
Any more questions, please?
They're thinking they want to go home now, thinking, shut up, you twat.
Okay. Thanks very much, Liz, and please be hands together for James Whitham. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming, having a good day. It's been lovely.
Thank you. If you'd like anything signed, of course, James will hang around and sign anything you like.